Okay, we're picking up where we left. I didn't notice before that the little microphone nubby thing was in the video. That's cool. That's very cool. Okay, so we're picking up exactly where we left off, which is that she's seeing the rain-faded flyers, and then she explains that they are pictures of Jacob. Jacob is cool. Jacob is awesome. Jacob's a jerk. So, her dad, Charlie, had put up all these posters in all of Washington State we're looking for Jacob. He's disappeared. My dad was disappointed with more than the lack of response. He was most disappointed with Billy, Jacob's father, and Charlie's closest friend. For Billy's not being more involved with the search of his 16-year-old runaway. For Billy's refusing to put up the flyers in La Push, the reservation on the coast that was Jacob's home. For his seeming resigned to Jacob's disappearance, as if there was nothing he could do. For his saying, Jacob's grown up now, he'll come home if he wants to. And he was frustrated with me for taking Billy's side. You know, Bella could be anyone. I wouldn't put up posters either, because both Billy and I knew where Jacob was, roughly speaking, and we also knew that no one had seen the boy. The flyers put the usual big fat lump in my throat, the usual stinging tears in my eyes, and I was glad Edward was out hunting this Saturday. If Edward saw my reaction, it would only make him feel terrible too. Of course, there were drawbacks to it being Saturday. As I turned slowly and carefully onto my street, I could see my dad's police cruiser in the driveway of our home. He'd skipped fishing again today, still thinking about the wedding. So I wouldn't be able to use the phone inside, but I had to call. I parked on the curb behind the Chevy sculpture. Oh, right, behind the Chevy sculpture. So she still has her truck. Why not just get rid of it? Oh well. I parked on the curb behind the Chevy sculpture, this is her dead truck sitting out in the lawn apparently, and pulled the cell phone Edward had given me for emergencies out of the glove compartment. I dialed, keeping my finger on the end button as the phone rang, just in case. Hello? Seth Clearwater answered, and I sighed in relief. I was way too chicken to speak to his older sister, Leah. The phrase, bite my head off, was not entirely a figure of speech when it came to Leah. Hey, Seth, it's Bella. Oh, hiya, Bella. How are you? Choked up, desperate for reassurance. Fine. Calling for an update? You're psychic. Not hardly. I'm no Alice. You're just predictable. He joked. Among the I can't pronounce the name, so I'm just going to say Quaalude. That's how I'm pronouncing it. Among the Quaalude pack down at La Push, only Seth was comfortable even mentioning the Cullens by name, let alone joking about things like my nearly omniscient sister-in-law-to-be. I know I am. I hesitated for a minute. How is he? Seth sighed. Same as ever. He won't talk, though we know he hears us. He's trying not to think human, you know. Just going with his instincts. Do you know where he is now? Somewhere in northern Canada. I can't tell you which province. He doesn't pay much attention to state lines. Any hint that he might... He's not coming home, Bella. Sorry. I swallowed. It's okay, Seth. I knew before I asked. I just can't help wishing. Yeah, we all feel the same way. Thanks for putting up with me, Seth. I know the others must be giving you a hard time. They're not your hugest fans, he agreed cheerfully. Kind of lame, I think. Jacob made his choices, you made yours. Jake doesn't like their attitude about it. Of course, he isn't super thrilled that you're checking up on him either. I gasped. I thought he wasn't talking to you. He can't hide everything from us, hard as he's trying. So Jacob knew I was worried. I wasn't sure how I felt about that. Well, at least he knew I hadn't skipped off into the sunset and forgotten him completely. He might have imagined me capable of that. I guess I'll see you at the... wedding. Forcing the word out of my teeth. Yeah, me and my mom will be there. It was cool of you to ask us. I smiled at the enthusiasm in his voice. Though inviting the Clearwaters had been Edward's idea, I was glad he'd thought of it. Having Seth there would be nice. A link, however tenuous, to my missing best man. It wouldn't be the same without you. Tell Edward I said hi, Kay? Sure thing. This is so necessary for enjoying this book. I shook my head. The friendship that had sprung up between Edward and Seth was something that still boggled my mind. It was proof, though, that things didn't have to be this way. The vampires and werewolves could get along just fine, thank you very much, if they were of a mind too. Not everybody liked this idea. "Ah," Seth said, his voice cracking up an octave. Leah's home. Oh, bye." The phone went dead. I left it on the seat and prepared myself mentally to go inside the house, where Charlie would be waiting. My poor dad had so much to deal with right now. Jacob the runaway was just one of the straws on his overburdened back. He was almost as worried about me, his barely a legal adult daughter who was about to become a missus in just a few days' time. I walked slowly through the light rain, remembering the night we told him. Flashback. At the sound of Charlie's... Whoa. Yeah. Okay. So we're remembering now. At the sound of Charlie's cruiser announcing his return, the ring suddenly weighed 100 pounds on my finger. I wanted to shove my left hand in a pocket, or maybe sit on it, but Edward's cool, firm grasp kept it front and center. "Stop fidgeting, Bella. Please try to remember that you're not confessing to a murder here." "Easy for you to say." I listened to the ominous sound of my father's boots clomping up the sidewalk. The key rattled in the already open door. The sound reminded me of that part of the horror movie when the victim realizes she's forgot to lock her deadbolt. "Calm down, Bella," Edward whispered, listening to the acceleration of my heart. The door slammed against the wall and I flinched like I'd been tasered. "Hey, Charlie," Edward called, entirely relaxed. "No!" I protested under my breath. "What?" Edward whispered back. "Wait till he hangs his gun up." Wait till he hangs his gun up. Edward chuckled and ran his free hand through his tousled bronze hair. Charlie came around the corner, still in his uniform, still armed, and tried not to make a face when he spied us sitting together on the love seat. Lately, he'd been putting forth a lot of effort to like Edward more. Of course, this revelation was sure to end that effort immediately. "Hey, kids, what's up?" "We'd like to talk to you," Edward said, so serene. "We have some good news." Charlie's expression went from strained friendliness to black suspicion in a moment. "Good news?" Charlie growled, looking straight at me. "Have a seat, Dad." He raised one eyebrow, stared at me for 5 seconds, then stomped to the recliner and sat down on the very edge, his back ramrod straight. "Don't get worked up, Dad," I said after a moment of loaded silence. "Everything's okay." Edward grimaced, and I knew it was in objection to the word okay. He probably would have used something more like wonderful, or perfect, or glorious. "Sure it is, Bella. Sure it is. If everything is so great, then why are you sweating bullets?" "I'm not sweating," I lied. I leaned away from his fierce scowl, cringing into Edward, and instinctively wiped the back of my right hand across my forehead to remove the evidence. "You're pregnant!" Charlie exploded. "You're pregnant, aren't you?" Though the question was clearly meant for me, he was glaring at Edward now, and I could have sworn I saw his hand twitch toward the gun. This is so ridiculous. This is so ridiculous. I hate the way that Charlie is portrayed. Charlie, the dad, he exists to yell at Bella. He exists to just get mad at the fact that she's with Edward. He exists just to be like that hindrance, that thorn, and he's looked at him. He's going for his gun? No, he's not. And even if Bella is just like seeing that, I mean, like, really? What the hell is he gonna do to Edward? He's a vampire! I mean, like, what's he gonna do? Really? I don't... I'm gonna need a lot more of this. No, of course I'm not pregnant. I wanted to elbow Edward in the ribs, but I knew that move would only give me a bruise. See, look, so she's like worried about the fact that he's gonna pull a gun, but she's not gonna elbow Edward in the ribs because then she gets a bruise from that. Logic? I told Edward that people would immediately jump to this conclusion. What other possible reason would sane people have for getting married at 18? His answer had then made me roll my eyes. Love. Right. Charlie's glower lightened a shade. It was usually pretty clear on my face when I was telling the truth, and he believed me now. Oh. Sorry. Apology accepted. There was a long pause. After a moment, I realized everyone was waiting for me to say something. I looked up at Edward, panic-stricken, and there was no way I was going to get the words out. He smiled at me and then squared his shoulders and turned to my father. Charlie, I realize I've gone about this out of order. Traditionally, I should have asked you first. I mean no disrespect, but since Bella has already said yes, and I don't want to diminish her choice in the matter, instead of asking you for her hand, I'm asking you for your blessing. We're getting married, Charlie. I love her more than anything in the world, more than my own life, and, by some miracle, she loves me that way too. Will you give us your blessing? He sounded so sure, so calm. For just an instant, listening to the absolute confidence in his voice, I experienced a rare moment of insight. I could see, fleetingly, the way the world looked to him. For the length of one heartbeat, this news made perfect sense. And then I caught sight of the expression on Charlie's face, his eyes now locked on the ring. I held my breath while his skin changed colors. Fair to red. Red to purple. Purple to blue. I started to get up. I'm not sure what I planned to do, maybe to use the Heimlich maneuver to make sure he wasn't choking, but Edward squeezed my hand and murmured, "Give him a minute," so low that only I could hear. Charlie's skin turned blue. Okay, so the purple thing, maybe I could kind of sort of try. Purple, God, that's such an extreme color for your skin to change. Just like, but blue, a complete lack of oxygen in the skin, that's like freezing temperatures kind of thing. The depiction of Charlie is one of the biggest problems I have, because Charlie is so simple-minded the way that he's presented. I mean, the man put a jar of spaghetti sauce in the refrigerator, right? A jar of spaghetti sauce with the metal lid still on the jar. This was back in book 3. And Bella had to stop him, because apparently Charlie doesn't know this simple thing that I think that, you know, anybody who has been told you don't put metal things in a microwave knows. Charlie exists to turn purple and to get mad at Bella. Charlie exists to be that stereotypical father figure who just gets mad. And I mean, like, turning purple? Turning blue? God, that's such an extreme reaction. And I mean, like, all of a sudden my daughter was like, I'm getting married, and he's a vampire, but Charlie doesn't know he's a vampire. Charlie just thinks that this Edward Cullen kid is, you know, Edward Cullen, or whatever. Whatever the hell Edward Cullen is. I don't know. But he turned, Anyways, next video. Charlene's reaction.